Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Great deal going on. You put in $5 on these Stanley Cup finals, you get $100 in free plays if you're a new customer. All right, now joined by a very special man, Mr. Al Terry, father of Dalen Terry. Al, let's just cut right to it. Every kid's dream, no matter what they say, is to play NBA basketball. It's not to play college, it's to ultimately get to the NBA. You guys are about 24 hours away from that. What's it feel like right now?
Absolutely surreal. Surreal, man. I could not be more amazed or excited for him and what's to come. I mean, this is just absolutely incredible, man. There's no words to really describe it.
Okay, take us through the draft process a little bit, because obviously you declared and kept all the doors open, so maybe come back, but you wanted to see what NBA teams thought of Dalen. What was the feedback like? And just kind of take us through this past month, 45 days.
Oh, wow. It's been incredible. So, he had the signing there on 4/23 at Finney's Landing, and then he was gone for 2 months. This is literally, last night at midnight was the first time I've seen the kid in two and a half months, man. He's been quite a grueling process for him. He trained out in LA for 2 weeks before he started doing his first couple workouts. And initially, we've got nothing but great feedback from every team he worked out for. Some workouts he shot it better than others, but ultimately, once people got to meet him, feel his energy in the gym and how the temperature raises, where he's more of a thermostat to kind of set the temperature, it was nothing but positive feedback, man. It was a good experience.
You and I were talking a little bit off air, but when Dalen declared, I thought that there was a pretty good chance he would stay in. And the main reason why is because, yes, people scout basketball players, but when you really get to see him, he's 6'7". He's got a guard handle. He's not 6'5" with a shooting guard handle. He's got a real guard handle, and the game comes naturally to him. Like the first time I saw him play, he was a freshman at Del Sol, long and lanky, and you're wondering, is he going to, grow into his arms? And he's whipping passes around. The kids just don't do that age. So when the scouts started to see all of that, it became kind of apparent that, wow, this is a guy that NBA teams are going to be really interested in.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I want to say the very first workout he had, they told him, if you go back to school, you need to tell them that you cannot play off the ball anymore. You need to play on the ball. That is your true position. Once they saw how he handled the pick and roll, navigated it, handling all the read and react plays that they were throwing at him, they said, you're a point guard. You should not be on the wing.
Right. So. Now, defensively, what have teams talked about with him? Because I would assume they're pretty enticed by what he can do defensively.
Of course, they're always looking at the length, that 7'1", 7-foot wingspan, whatever they're wanting to measure it at, along with his intensity and his will to win allows him to, really be wreak havoc in the passing lanes, make it difficult for smaller guards to get off, their shots. And so, everybody's really excited. I think that will be his calling card when he first gets into the league. They're not going to probably look at him to be a go-to scorer or anything like that, but they're going to expect him to play defense. And, he's fully capable and ready to take that on.
Now, have there been any teams that have shown maybe more interest than others? Do you have any idea, through the agent, where you're expecting Dalen to land, anything like that?
No, not really.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty, everybody's playing everything close to the vest. And honestly, Mike, no one can be trusted. They'll tell us one thing and really be looking the other direction the whole time in order to try to make somebody else jump at something. So at the end of the day, we're just going to, count our blessings and wait for his name to be called and hope it's, wherever it is, we're going to be grateful. It doesn't really matter.
I had a prospect one time say, you know what, I wasn't looking for one promise from a team. I was looking for about 7 promises, because they're going to tell you anything right there. So
yeah.
Let's just kind of take through the journey of, high school, getting to the U of A, then obviously going pro. Was there a point when you knew that your son could do things on the basketball court that just other kids could truly try to do, but just couldn't quite do?
Man, I think it was when his freshman year at Corona, it was like, I always thought he was good, but as a dad, you're always a critic, especially playing the game, on some levels. I have a good understanding for what good basketball looks like. And I used to always lose my mind as a point guard because he would leave his feet, jump up in the air and pass the ball. And I'd be like, dude, stay on your feet. Dude, stay on your feet. And so I was like, I don't know. And then his freshman year, I think it was like week 2, UCLA showed up. And I was like, wait, UCLA's here?
Right.
Yeah, maybe there's something to this, right? And then, once he left Corona del Sol and I saw him, it was that I have it pinned on a tweet on my profile for Twitter. He went to the ASU basketball camp with Hillcrest for the first time, and he made 3 or 4 guys miss and then came up with this George Gervin finger roll.
Right.
And it was like, holy cow.
Right.
Okay. The level just went up and he just went up 2 levels. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think at that point I was like, oh, he has a future at this. I wonder what it's going to look like. But at that point, I kind of knew he's special.
You know what it was? It's kind of like the quote that he put out a while back that, where he said, I'd rather try to get better in the NBA against professionals than be a star in college. And that's kind of what you're saying right there. The best players elevate their game against the best competition. And honestly, you saw that throughout his sophomore season. We'll get to that in just a minute, but then just kind of take us through recruiting a little bit. So obviously, Dalen, I personally thought that he was a top 25 kid. I couldn't believe that there was other guys that were 6'7" that could handle pass like him. But so the recruiting comes, you got a lot of different options. What made you decide on Arizona?
Well, ultimately we try to empower Dalen as his parents to make good decisions. We allow him to weigh the options, but at the end of the day, I wasn't going to have to go to any single practices, go to anything down in Tucson. So it was his decision. And I don't think it was a hard decision for him. He's always been a Wildcat fan, growing up here in Phoenix, being born here in Phoenix. He's been, he's followed the Wildcats for a long time, had a great relationship with Mike Bibby, even prior to him coming for his short stint over at Hillcrest. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it was really a tough decision at all for him.
Right. So he really kind of takes off this year. He becomes a kind of a jack of all trades, for lack of a better term, rebounder, passer, defender. What did you see from him this sophomore year as far as development that, you guys were really going for?
In terms of development, what I wanted him to do was just have a lot more confidence with his shot. I felt like early in the season, he was a reluctant shooter and teams were really sagging off of him. And I want to say it might've been game 10. It was that home game against ASU. Where he had a rough go at it. They were able to squeak out and get the W. But I think after that, he had a meeting with the coaching staff and they really implored him to be confident and to get his shot off more often and be confident about taking it. And I think at that point, he hit a lot more than he had hit previously. So,
you know what he is too? He's a timely shooter. We were at the Pac-12 tournament. Well, let's talk about TCU for a second. That 3-pointer that he made to then tie the game when it looked like Arizona was on the ropes right there. That's one of those things you can't teach. You either have that or you don't have that, Al.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And if I recall, he didn't have a great game offensively that game. I think he shot 2 for 8 that game, but the 2 shots that he made were huge shots, shots that if you don't have confidence in yourself, you're not taking those shots, right? Those are shots you're passing off. So, just could not be more excited for him and the opportunity, but how he played during the tournament, like you said, he kept raising his level every time, they came up against a new challenge. It seemed like he stepped up.
All right, let's talk about Dalen, the person here a little bit. First, got to do a quick DraftKings read. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX, put in $5, get $100 in free plays. Stanley Cup finals are going on. But the other time you want to hop on the DraftKings Sportsbook app is the NBA draft is tomorrow, something that Al's probably going to be following very, very closely. 21 and up, Arizona only. You got a gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Again, a lot of people are sliding Dalen in somewhere between about 16 and 23. If you think he's going to be going in there, hop on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Again, code word PHNX. Okay, everybody's always talked about Dalen as, he's just a happy-go-lucky kid. What you see out there is kind of what you get. Has he always kind of been that way?
Oh yeah. He's faced a lot of adversity in his life, and he's found a way to make lemons out of lemonade no matter what you do. He's always kept a joyful spirit and, just a love for the game. I feel like basketball is a sanctuary for him where he can kind of block out the noise and really pour his heart in, really express himself. And I think that's what he does in the game. He's really expressing himself through the game.
Right. So you got some Kobe Bryant stuff over your shoulder right there. Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Did he grow up in a Kobe? Did he grow up in a Kobe house?
Well, he converted the house to Kobe. Okay. So, right. My generation, I was a huge Michael Jordan fan.
Right.
I actually did not like the Lakers. I'm from New England, so I was a Boston Celtic fan. Once I got off the Michael Jordan bandwagon. And so when Kobe came to Boston and they lost, I forget what year it was, we were actually in Connecticut.
2008.
Yeah, 2008. Right. And we were actually in Connecticut. And I considered myself a Kobe hater. Just because he was so good and he was so cocky. I was just like, nah. And, from the time Dalen was 9, he was like writing down drills to become a legend. And he was emulating everything he saw Kobe doing in terms of his drills. And so, it inspired his little brothers, one of them who was just hopping in over my shoulder over here. And so this was something that they wanted a couple years ago. We went down to Mexico and it ended up in my office.
Right. And then there's a lot worse players that you can emulate than Kobe Bryant right there, especially when it comes to work ethic. Yeah. So what are your, so when you look at the next stage then going into the NBA, what's, do you guys have individual goals? Is it just to get out on the court? What's, take us through the next couple of years, how you'd like to see Dalen develop.
Yeah, I think we're gonna take it one step at a time, find out whatever organization he goes to, what they're looking for, what they need from him. Obviously, you got to put the team first, and your development second in terms of what they're looking for to get you on the floor. So I expect him to go in and do what he's done for everyone. He went in with Sean Miller that first year as a freshman, played quite a few minutes, completely out of his normal position, but no one ever heard a word from him. Right. He grew a lot that year, and I knew at that point he had what it take to be a pro. So I expect him to go in with the same type of hard hat mentality with his lunchbox, doing whatever they ask of him and being a positive influence on his team to contribute to a winning culture and wins.
Now, he had the ball a lot more in his hands this sophomore year. People were able to see, more of what he could do, especially from the passing, facilitating. When Tommy Lloyd took over, did he talk about how he wanted Dalen to be more of a facilitator?
You know what he did? He that was one of the first things Tommy said. He said, "Hey, Dalen, just so you know, I'm not going to stick you in the corner. You're going to get to throw the ball." That was one of the first things he said. Which obviously was music to Dalen's ears, and it kept Dalen from being one of those kids to hop in the portal just to make Tommy recruit him again.
Right.
As you guys probably know, Dalen's extremely loyal, so he wanted to make it as easy as possible once he knew he was going to have a chance to rock.
What's cool about Dalen too is that he's got the capability of looking back at his U of A career in 10, 12 years. This class that he came with really elevated Arizona back onto the national scene between Dalen, between Benedict Mathurin, Azuolas Tubelis. I mean, that's really the backbone of what we saw this past year, Al, this resurgence when it comes to U of A basketball. So that's certainly something that he should be proud of.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think there's a bit of regret or disdain at all. I think it was clearly the best basketball year of his life. He took a huge leap from his freshman to sophomore year, and I know he loved his teammates. And everybody who saw the game could tell how happy they were as a unit out there playing for each other. So it was definitely one of his best years.
Now, you caught my attention a little bit. I posted something about Cody Williams the other day. Do you keep in touch, or do you keep base on the Arizona high school scene still?
Oh, absolutely. So the youngest one that's here that was just in there, he's a seventh grader.
Okay.
And so after watching Dalen go through the process, the AAU process, and then him playing on a couple other teams and just feeling like there was a gap between coaching and teaching and,
Yeah.
club basketball where they just roll the ball out and best athletes wins versus teaching people how to use screens, understanding how to read and react to defenses and things like that. I decided to get involved. So for the last year and a half, I've been coaching a club program called Valley Elite, which will quickly be converting over to DT Elite once he finds where he's going.
Right.
And so I have no choice. I'm constantly at a tournament somewhere.
Well, it's super underrated too when you have a father that knows how to navigate the process. I mean, just look at you. You put him into Corona del Sol, which at the time, like you talked about, you've got Saban Lee, you've got Alex Barcelo, you're coming off having Marvin Bagley there. Then the next step is putting him into Hillcrest. What did he gain from maybe that first year at Del Sol and then making that big jump to Hillcrest right there?
Well, I think what we gained that first year, we may have not been able to build upon the second year. He didn't have the same cast of teammates.
Right.
And the philosophy was a little different. And so while we loved our time with Coach McDonald, I got to the point where I was realizing, he was practicing against 2 D1 guards every single day, all the time. Right. And I knew they were going to work him hard. Well, that second year, he was one of the top dogs on the team. So who's pushing you at that point? And so
especially when you're a sophomore.
Right. So and if nobody's pushing you, then how much better are you really going to get? And so there was a call from Coach Washington up at Findlay Prep, and they were interested in Dalen coming out to Findlay Prep. And so Hillcrest was really my effort to keep my kid from leaving and going to Nevada. And so I actually called Hillcrest and was like, hey, how would you like to have a 6'6" point guard?
Right.
And he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I am. And he goes, yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'd love to have him. Can he come in and work out next week? Yep. Yeah, he can be there. And so, the thought philosophy behind that was he's going to play against D1 talent all the time and potential pros. So what do I want to do? Do we want to stay playing AIA and play against 1 or 2 D1 players once every other week? Or do we want to play against pros and D1 players every single day?
And then the thing about it too is then it gets you ready even more so for college, because essentially it's a college preparatory type system right there. All these guys have the same exact dreams right there. They're all pushing themselves. It's not, kids that are just playing basketball to stay in shape for baseball or football season anymore,
Right. And then and what you see is that you see all the same kids progressing along. Like I remember when he played against Mount Verde and Scotty Barnes. I remember him playing against IMG, and all those dogs that IMG had, Musa Diabata and all those guys, Mark Williams. I remember these games like it was yesterday, traveling all over and really being exposed to the game in a way that not everybody gets an opportunity to do. Even so much as going to China and playing against pros there. It was an incredible journey. To get to this point.
All right. So one more read again, DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. If you're not watching the NBA draft tomorrow, you should be watching the NBA draft tomorrow. What are you doing? Arizona could have possibly 3 guys going into the first round, the son of which I'm talking to right now. Again, 21 and up, Arizona only. You've got a gambling issue, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. This is the only place you need to be. All right, Al, before we sign off here, what are your thoughts going to be on Dalen's time at Arizona, and what are your hopes going forward, with the young man that you've developed into the NBA?
Man, I will always look at our time at Arizona very fondly, especially this second year, being able to be in McHale and really feel the energy and the love of the city and the fans and the support that they provided to not just Dalen, but the team. And then the love that was extended to the family from the fans and people that we ran into on a regular basis. And as far as going forward, and I wish him continued success. I know he's going to work hard. I know there's nothing but hard work on the other end of his name being called. And I think he's ready to do it. And I honestly believe that he will be a future NBA All-Star.
Al, you did this the right way. You went through it. And again, I always, with parents, people need to remember this is a once in a lifetime opportunity right here. You guys went through the process. You did your due diligence. You did this right, my man.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right. So we will definitely be in touch. But again, congratulations. I know tomorrow you're going to be watching the game, the draft, I think up in Scottsdale. So
yeah, we're having a formal draft party up in Old Town Scottsdale.
All right. He's Al Terry. I'm Mike Luke. Thanks so much. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.